Hey, this is Oliver the Ricketts. Every year, myself, my girlfriend, and my friend Jeremy all rate our top 10 movies of the year. But this year, there were no movies. All the fun turned off. Rather than making 3 top 10 videos, this year, we're just gonna get together and tell you about all the movies that we saw. It'll be about the same number. I'll be honest, Underwater lost me in the first 2 minutes.
Thank God I did not sit through it in the theater because I would have been pissed.
I knew exactly what this was going to be going in, and there were no surprises. So if this is the kind of movie that you like, this is for you. 1917 was technically in the 2019 Oscar category, but it had a January 10th release date in the United States.
1917 is the first and best movie that I saw from 2020.
I don't think anything else really passed it. I really loved it.
Which means that the entirety of this year has been one big disappointment.
Bad Boys for Life. Who the hell knew I was gonna like this movie so much? Not me.
A nice way to pretty much end the trilogy. Let's hope that they don't feel the need to make any more of those. I think we're good.
They lost Michael Bay, and that was an improvement.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Michael Bay for joining us.
I actually think this might be my favorite of the whole series.
According to Google, Weathering with You came out in the USA in January of this year, which means legally I'm allowed to talk to you about anime right now. Weathering with You is a great film, but I honestly don't know what you would expect from a director like Hokuto Shinkai at this point.
Nobody knows who that is except you. The Gentleman was really cool if you like average movies.
I thought that was a good one. I don't know if I have a desire to watch again, but I enjoyed it.
I do not remember what this movie was about, because I just don't remember.
Birds of Prey is a weird one, because I can't pinpoint anything that I didn't like, but at the same time, I did not like this movie.
I don't know how they at any point thought they could pretend that Birds of Prey was anything other than a Harley Quinn movie with some side characters, and the movie probably would have turned out better if they had realized that sooner.
Really, the breakout star from this was Ewan McGregor as Black Mask, because he's just incredible, and he deserved better than being the villain in this movie. Oliver and I saw Downhill one night, randomly. Boy, did that movie get, deep and dark fast. I didn't dislike it, but I don't know if I actually liked it either.
I had absolutely zero interest in seeing Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm actually in the camp that I thought the CGI got worse with the reskin.
Surprisingly, Sonic the Hedgehog ended up being really good at what it did, even if what it ended up doing was horribly generic and had nothing to do with Sonic.
For what it's worth, I did have fun with this movie, and I thought Jim Carrey was really cool.
I hope they have more fun with the sequel.
Invisible Man could have been a really cool movie, but it's another one of these horror movies that's way too interested in having a twist rather than making the twist make sense.
The Invisible Man was f***ing stupid. There, I said it. I really don't have much else to say. Onward! What a breath of fresh air.
Onward might not have been exactly what you're expecting from a Pixar movie, but I don't know. I think it had a really strong emotional core and was a lot of fun.
I feel like did not get a lot of high praise, but I really loved the movie.
Weirdly, a controversial opinion to say something like that. I know a lot of people that were not crazy about this. And
the podcast, we've definitely given Onward the business, if you will. But I really liked this movie.
I felt like it had a really nice message by the end. Plus pants. Who doesn't love pants?
This was the better Invisible Man movie of the two. King of Staten Island was actually a movie that I really enjoyed. Pete Davidson was surprisingly good in it, and Bill Burr was hilarious.
I feel like Pete Davidson is somebody that I would actually know, somebody I would have grown up with, and I have a family member who passed in 9/11, which is something that happened to Pete Davidson as well. So a lot of what he went through and a lot of what he goes through in this film, I can definitely relate to.
The movie's way too long, and because of that, I thought I was going to watch it way more than I actually did, but I haven't touched it since I watched it the first time.
I think I was the only one of this crew to watch Eurovision, but it was cute. I love movie musicals, and the music in it was actually really cute.
I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, but I think Hamilton is incredibly overrated.
So I finally watched Hamilton when they released it on Disney+, which I was so excited for. So many people I know are obsessed with it, and I watched it, and I was falling asleep.
I didn't find any of the music overly catchy. There's a total lack of real dance numbers or set pieces here.
I paused Hamilton during the intermission and completely forgot to finish it until I was looking at all the movies I had watched this year. Although, I actually did enjoy the music and find myself humming the songs that I had heard for a while after I'd seen it. Palm Springs was a fun twist on a time travel movie that ultimately ended up being more inspiring to me to think of better twists to do than to actually watch as a film.
Cue the biggest eye roll in the history of eye rolls. The Kissing Booth 2 was a dumpster fire, just like 2020 was. I didn't know what I expected. I knew it was going to be bad. Just go stand outside and stare at the sky. It'll be more titillating than watching that dumb movie.
Tenet was a movie I was super excited about, and I have to say it lived up to every single one of my expectations.
We have made it to my number one pick of the year, Tenet.
I won't say it's rare for me to think about a movie this long after, but for me to think about a movie for this long, it must be pretty good.
I think about Tenet probably almost every day, if not every day, since I've seen it. I suggest over and over again to friends and family to come to my apartment to watch it with me so I have excuses to watch it.
Robert Pattinson and John David Washington have such good chemistry with each other, and Kenneth Branagh just chews scenery.
Tenet had some really fun and mind-bending time travel stuff, but it really only started in the second half of this 2.5-hour movie. The rest of it didn't have anything that I latched onto and was interested in.
The case of the American Pickle, I think that Seth Rogen usually has very cool ideas for his movies. A movie about a sausage that talks. A movie about dating the female president. A movie about a man that fell into a vat of pickles and survived for decades to come out in a completely different era. But I think the concept is the most interesting thing here. I didn't find the movie overly funny, especially compared to some of the other movies of his that I really like.
One of the worst criticisms I think I can give is that I have absolutely nothing to say about a film. It made such a minor impression on me, and I can't remember how I felt when I watched it. That is my review of both Project Power and American Pickle. I only watched the binge because a close friend of mine worked on it, and that is the only circumstance under which I would recommend that somebody watch this movie. It is truly something special to watch the death of a franchise, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like what has happened to the XMen movies. That wasn't enough to enjoy the movie, though.
I didn't really know what to expect from I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I love Charlie Kaufman, but the trailer really didn't sell me. I was pleasantly surprised. I think that this has such a unique way of telling the story that you're not going to get in another movie, and had a really deep and thought-provoking message that has stuck with me since watching the movie.
I get like trying to be deep and try to be like poetic and all that stuff, but this movie just wasn't it for me.
I kept waiting for I'm Thinking of Ending Things to provide a reason or, well, I mean, even to conclude, but instead it just kind of decides it's done and shows you something else for a while, which is a shame because this is one of the most thought-provoking movies of the year.
I do not ever have a desire to watch again, and I would never recommend it to somebody.
Devil All the Time is probably my least favorite movie that I saw this year. It promised a Robert Pattinson versus Tom Holland really dark thrill ride, and instead what we got was Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland in a scene together for all of 15 minutes over a 2+ hour movie that really thought it had something smart to say.
We were recommended Kajillionaire by a few friends of ours that claimed that it was a movie that we would really like. I don't know why these people suggested this to me.
There are definitely scenes that I really enjoyed, and it's a very competent movie. However, I think at times it's quirky for the sake of being quirky. I found it to be a little pretentious.
I think Kajillionaire might actually be my favorite movie of the year. Despite only recently watching it, it is the movie that's been uninvitedly taking up the most headspace for me.
The Witches is one that we just kind of turned on. As far as creating a really cool, creepy effect with these witches, this movie shines.
If I was a child watching this now, I would be terrified. As an adult, I was terrified. I couldn't get through it.
Borat 2, the subsequent movie film. It's not as funny as the first Borat, and anybody who says that it is lying to themselves. However, it's definitely worth watching for the end.
These next few movies I'm going to kind of talk about together. They're literally almost all the same movie. I watched Holiday, Desperados, and Love Guaranteed this year. Two unlikely people who don't like one another, whatever reason that it is, end up getting together and dealing with some sort of issue, and then they fall in love by the end of it. Of the three, I would say Holiday was probably the best. It was a little raunchy for Netflix, and I really appreciated that.
Mank is the most technically impressive movie that I saw all year. This definitely definitely isn't a movie for everybody, but if you know a lot about Citizen Kane and the history surrounding it, you're gonna have a great time watching this.
Sound of Metal was a movie that I was really interested in and then didn't quite end up being what I expected, but I still was really into what it ended up doing. Another Round is a movie that I watched on recommendation. I ended up really liking it though. I don't know quite how I feel about the ending, and I'm not sure exactly what was the intent there.
I was very much looking forward to Wonder Woman 84, but I have to say I was totally disappointed by this movie.
Look, I'm allowed to enjoy a turn your brain off superhero movie, and I do think there's a lot to enjoy and have fun with here.
Honestly, where Wonder Woman 84 fits best would be after Superman 2. Both tonally and technically, that's the era that it fits, and honestly, we've moved past that.
Wonder Woman 1984 is a fun superhero romp that I'll admit doesn't really do anything special with the genre.
Laughably bad. I think the 80s thing is kind of overdone. I think that Wonder Woman is kind of like whatever. Gal Gadot is beautiful. Can she act? It is what it is. Here is a very polarizing movie in this apartment. Soul.
Soul is my favorite movie of the year.
I seem to be the only one that didn't really love it.
Soul is as beautiful and emotional as any classic Pixar movie, and I have no issue putting it up there with all of the greats of this studio.
I watched it twice the day that it dropped on Disney+.
Oliver watched it 3 times in about 12 hours. I don't know how.
I just really love this movie. I love everything that it was trying to say. How Pixar put out 2 super solid full-length animated features this year is beyond me.
I don't know if I need to like give myself more time.
It is a lot.
Obviously, we're not ranking these, but if you did want to know what I thought of all of these movies, this would be it. Top to bottom.
In case you want it, here's my top 10 for the year. It kind of sucks that all these movies, I only really watched them at the very end. I don't know, someday I'll feel confident enough to say that I enjoy movies again.
If I had to rank them, I would say this would probably be my ranking. There's a few there that I really, really, really loved, and obviously this is a weird year for movies, but these ones are the best, and if you like my recommendations, watch these movies.
And that's it. That's all the movies that came out in 2020 that we saw. Here's hoping that next year there are actually 10 good movies for us to rate.